The Atlanta Falcons get a pass, unlike anything we've ever seen from a tampering charge, and they came out completely scot-free. We are also be talking T-Law's extension, which is the biggest bum extension I've ever seen in my life. Literally, we have a bum as the highest paid quarterback in the league. And speaking of bums, Aaron Rodgers decided to leave minicamp to go be a bum. We're going to be breaking all that down next here on The Gridiron. Welcome into The Gridiron. Go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and follow button right now. Before we even get into the video, you know you want to. This is the best place to get unbiased, real football news. And also, I want to give a big shout out to one of our affiliates, and that is Dubby. Yeah, that's right. Dubby sticker on my mic right here. I absolutely love this stuff. It's clean energy, all the stuff you want, none of the stuff you don't. They now have cans, people. You don't have to mix your own energy drink supplement anymore with Dubby. You can get the energy cans right now. They have a mango orange creamsicle flavor as well as a strawberry banana flavor in the can. I've already had the strawberry banana. It is amazing. I highly recommend it. Go to w.gg, use our code THEHOUSECALL, all caps, no spaces, get 10% off your order and get all the mental focus and none of the jitters that you need to excel at everything you do. So I'm going to start with the T-Law thing. And it absolutely blows my damn mind. And granted, half of this is because of how the salary cap has continued to improve. So we'll always eventually see these quarterbacks setting records, right? Like, as it keeps going, we're always, the new highest paid player ever in the NFL. No shit, the salary cap keeps going up. That is not the problem here. The problem here is that the person who just set the highest mark right now is Trevor fucking Lawrence, who literally has about the same statistics as another bum-ass quarterback that is pretty known here, especially by Justin and other New York Giants fans, Daniel Jones. And do you all remember how hyped the 2020, like that draft class was? Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, don't even know because he's never played meaningful snaps, Mac Jones, all these quarterbacks, so hyped up, Mac Jones, like all this stuff. Trevor Lawrence is the only one who had his fifth-year option picked up and is still with his original team and literally did nothing better than any of the other ones, right? And we're all like, well, at least he won his division. He made a playoff game. In the AFC South, before it was a power, when literally winning the AFC South was the biggest joke in the world, Trevor Lawrence won the AFC South. And just if you want to know the comparisons to Daniel Jones here, I'll go ahead and give it to you. Completion percentage, Daniel Jones is better. Passing yards total, granted Daniel Jones has a few more games. Daniel Jones hasn't beat. Passing yards attempts goes to Trevor Lawrence. Passing yards per game goes to Trevor Lawrence. Not by a lot. INTs, Trevor Lawrence is one better. Remember, Daniel Jones has played more games. Touchdowns, Daniel Jones is better. 4 more. Every other statistical category you expect: rushing attempts, yards, touchdowns, fantasy points, passer rating. Daniel Jones is better than Trevor Lawrence. And yet, there is still a chance that Daniel Jones is not a giant when everything is said and done. So here we are. Trevor Lawrence is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't even know where to go with it. So I'm going to kick it over to the guy who I've pretty much just berated his starting quarterback, and he probably agrees with everything I said. Yeah, loosely termed starting quarterback. Justin, what is the deal with paying this bum-ass quarterback that much money?
I'm so glad you put that comparison together, because if we turn the clock back to when Daniel Jones first signed that $160 million deal, I had to eat a whole lot of crow from everybody in the House Call family about the overpayment. And I told y'all 2 things about that contract. 1, he's not going to be a top 5, top 10 paid quarterback in the next coming years. And 2, there is an out in the contract. Lo and behold, we are going into year 2 of this. And after this, one of those two options can be exercised, which is the out. Now, as for Trevor Lawrence, this is a case of if you are a quarterback and you are the last quarterback to sign a contract with your team, an extension, you are guaranteed to be the top 2 in terms of overall contract value. And that is just what happened. Trevor Lawrence came in at the right time, and shout out to his agents because they were able to take the Jacksonville Jaguars for everything they got. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I think his total cap, his highest cap is like somewhere along the line, like 50, 60 million in one of those years. And he is on par for an average of about 55 a year. So he just did what the quarterback market always does. The salary cap goes up. I'm the latest one to sign. So I'm going to guarantee myself to get the highest payday possible. The downside of it for the Jacksonville Jaguars and for every team who succumbs to these moments is the fact that the highest paid quarterbacks are likely the ones that don't win championships. The Chiefs win, the Bills make a deep playoff run, and Josh Allen is not one of the highest paid quarterbacks. With a healthy Joe Burrow is the closest thing they get. And he did take them to a Super Bowl, albeit he did lose. Lamar Jackson is not one of the highest paid quarterbacks, shockingly. But yet you look at the ones that are the highest paid quarterbacks, and they vastly are underwhelming compared to the value of those contracts. So NFL teams, y'all got problems. And Miami, you're up next because Tua is up for a contract as well.
Yeah, and you hit it on the dot. Like his cap hit isn't crazy. The first 3 years is not crazy. It's a sub 10% cap hit. It's 15, 17, and 24. After that, this starts to get dicey. He breaks into the double-digit percentage hit at 11% in 2027, at 35, and at 28, it's 47 million, 14%. They have an opt-out in 2000 or in 29, right? If they don't opt out or restructure this deal, $78.5 million cap hit, 22%. This man will be worth on their cap. And then that drops only like $3.7 million down to $74.8 million cap hit in 2030 at a almost 20% cap hit.
Yes.
So basically, if he's ass and they can't find a trade partner to eat that contract, which they won't, because no one's going to trade for a guy who may only be a, second string quarterback. It's a big deal. The worst part is realistically, they can only cut him and save money in 2028, where his dead cap is only $7.5 million. Any other year, if he was to be cut, if he somehow gets cut in 2024, which is not likely, $148 million dead cap. He gets cut in 2025, $133 million dead cap. Gets cut in 2026, $88.5 million dead cap. He gets cut in 2027, $44 million dead cap. This man. Oh, man. And the funny thing is, and a lot of these are option prorations. So in 2028, he has a $28 million option. Nuts. So, Chris, I'm going to go to you. Is this the biggest fleece we've ever seen of an organization? Because they are essentially locked in with him for at least, without having massive cap ramifications, until after the 2027 season. So he's going to play at least 4 more years as a Jacksonville Jaguar, regardless of how well he does.
Yeah. As far as the biggest fleece, for me personally, I feel like the Deshaun Watson to the Browns was probably the biggest fleece for me. But I think this definitely comes very close in hand. Look, my issue, like I understand, like the QB it's an essential position, right? So I get the need to pay the guy that you think gives you the best chance to win. I get that. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job for anybody to replace. So I get that. My issue obviously is with the amount. Like, this man has 200 million guaranteed. What has he done? He hasn't done anything. Literally, he's been to the playoffs once, and that was what, in like 2022, somewhere in that range. Yep. So he's been once. He won one game. In 2 games, he has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So you haven't really done anything playoff-wise. From the stats that I looked up, this man was 15th in touchdowns, mid. He was top 10 in yards, but after that, what else is there? His QBR is low. His completion percentage is average at best. So it's like, you really are taking, and this is the issue that I have just overall with the QB market, they're taking middle grade quarterbacks and they're paying them top 5 quarterback money. And just like you said, when you start looking at what these quarterbacks are being paid, the ones who right now who are being paid the highest aren't winning anything. Likely the top 3 haven't won, excuse my language, jack shit at the moment. But you have players like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. They're always in the realm. I'm not a huge Josh Allen fan, but at the end of the day, was it Justin? You just said it. He is always in the mix. He's in the mix. He's made deep playoff runs. You have Jared Goff, who he's also getting paid more than, who is fresh off an NFC championship game. Lamar Jackson is fresh off the AFC title. Patrick Mahomes just came off of a Super Bowl title. What has he done? Nothing. And like, it's purely based on the market and has zero to do with talent. And I feel like that's just a recipe for disaster. Because if you start going back and you start looking, like, for instance, I look back at like the Tom Brady era. Yes, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm going to look at it. Because I do feel like he was a very team-friendly guy for most of his career. In 2007, this man went undefeated in the regular season. He made $7 million. That's what he was making that year. $7 million. The very next year, after coming off an undefeated season, he made 14. He never capped out average-wise over 25. Not a single time. But look how successful he was. Constantly giving back because he knew it is a team game. You can't, if you're the one that's being paid all the money, then somebody's getting left out. Whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a defensive player, somebody is being left out in that realm, and then you screw your team ultimately. So if you're paying, I feel like if you're paying those QBs that amount of money, I get that the cap is always going to go up, but if you're paying them that amount of money and Dak is coming up to a Tagovailoa who's going up, who are both better than Trevor Lawrence, I think this is going to be their starting asking point at this point, then I think you're kind of screwing your team in that regard. You're paying them, but you're going to end up shysting someone else.
100%. And it's funny, we've seen the history behind this, right? Like, any quarterback who accounts for over like 15% of their team salary cap they're not winning a Super Bowl. I think right up until Patrick Mahomes had won one, accounting for 15% of his cap. Like, I think he was like right at 14. Like, it was one of the closest ones we had seen in a long minute. He was the first one to really do it, because everybody else, like all of Tom Brady's Super Bowls, were under 15%. All of these other quarterbacks that won Super Bowls were under 15%. When they made the jump over that mark, they didn't win because they couldn't get talent around them and their draft wasn't as good, right?
Absolutely.
And I do take it back.
Also at Patrick Mahomes, though, they got him for 10 years. It's not like it was a 4 or 5 year deal. They did 10. Now this man's at like, what, bottom 15 as far as payment wise, which is insane.
Well, I mean, and it grew. It was growing with how they saw the salary cap growing at the time. Mm-hmm. Exponential growth saw that kind of lower his amount because it was supposed to build based on the years how they structured it. And I did say that this might be the biggest fleece of all time. Unfortunately, I can't say that. Trevor Lawrence, you get a pass because the only quarterback that I can say is the biggest fleece of all time actually belongs to Ricky's Raiders with Jamarcus Russell. That is the biggest fleece of a quarterback of all time. And Jamarcus Russell said, if you're going to call me a bust, you better put the greatest in front of that motherfucker. So it is the greatest fleece of all time, Jamarcus Russell. There you go, buddy. But, I mean, Gage, you've had your share of mediocre quarterbacks. One of them's in this dumpster behind me. So I want to go ahead and hear your take, as the local Jets fan, since we already got the local Giants fan here on mediocre quarterbacks and everything like that. What is this surprising he got this to you?
No and yes. No, because quarterback play is either so mediocre and bad, Like, if you look, there are maybe 7 teams in the NFL that have like a solid, firm confidence in the quarterback right now. Maybe 8. I'm not even counting Dak Prescott because we don't know if he'll be a Cowboy next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him.
Trevor Lawrence, you gotta check. Is his agent the same as Kirk Cousins? Because that's Hall of Fame bag getting right there. That's Hall of Fame finesse.
If they don't have Tommy DeVito, or that Tommy DeVito, is that who it was, or who was the Giants quarterback? What was that guy's name? Justin
DeVito.
Yeah, they need to have that dude as an agent because that man does deals.
Oh yeah.
I don't think the kind of deals you want.
Probably not.
It's just that the quarterback position has had such mediocrity for the last couple of years that above average now gets rewarded. Because teams aren't willing to take the chance on, well, we could be bad for 5 years while we search more. Instead of Justin Herbert, great quarterback, hasn't won shit.
Nothing.
Can't win a playoff game. And had such talent around him. Like, we give Daniel Jones shit, he doesn't have anything around him. And he has the same numbers. While Trevor Lawrence has Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, now has Gabe Davis, now has Brian Thomas Jr., had a solid defense on the other side of the ball, has a solid offensive line. I was about to say Travis Etienne.
Ingram's there too, right? Tight end.
Pick. It was supposed to be the next coming of Peyton Manning. And he's just average. So I just don't think Jackson was willing to look elsewhere to find something. Because now you look at teams that did, and now you have 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers still starting. You have Russell Wilson still a starting quarterback in the NFL. Kirk Cousins off an injury. Zach Wilson 2.0 in Minnesota.
Jacoby Brissett.
Sam Darnold might be a starting quarterback in the NFL again.
Minnesota.
Outside of, I really think, like, and I'm counting C.J. Stroud. I'm not counting Bryce Young, but I'm counting C.J. Stroud in this. I don't think there's, like, a lot of talent at quarterback in the NFL right now. There's no one worth the money, but the market is so low that they're just paying guys that would, like, okay, well, you aren't going to lose us games. That's why Kirk Cousins got $200-something million. Kirk Cousins, again, great regular season score, hasn't won jack shit.
It's a bubble. It's a bubble.
It's definitely a bubble.
And it needs to get popped. That's what needs to happen. It needs to get popped.
But until we identify another position in the NFL that is as critical to the game as the quarterback position, it's not going to pop. It's a unpoppable bubble. It's like a recession-proof city, and people are like, "Oh, that doesn't exist." Yes, it does. Recession-proof cities are cities that have a military base around them, because as long as the military base is there, there are going to be jobs, and the housing market will continue to have people coming there, and it's never going to die because the military installation will keep it running. This is exactly what's happening with the quarterback position. All right, shit quarterbacks get big contracts because at least they're not as shit as the other guy they could have. Okay, that's how this works. And we were talking about Sam Darnold. A lot of people thought that Sam Darnold was just going to be there to, like, somewhat mentor J.J. McCarthy. The problem is I don't know if I want Sam Darnold, the guy who could have been an extra in Ghostbusters, mentoring my rookie quarterback. All right, like, and there's another shot because Gage literally closed his eyes because he felt the pain from that flashback.
And apparently, reports are coming out of the camp that J.J. McCarthy might be the third string quarterback on that team right now.
That tells you how bad things are.
To be fair, some of us called this. We saw J.J. McCarthy, and we were like, hey, he, from an arm talent perspective, is not ready. We knew that he had mechanics issues, and he was not relied upon to win games. The only reason a lot of us thought that he might be something special or be able to show earlier on than the rest of the quarterbacks was because of the offensive talent around him. Right? They put him in a system that has the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I would say you could have an argument about it, but I don't know if you'd have a good one. Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, who's a top 5 tight end. Solid running game. Good running backs. and a decent offensive line. The only real weakness on that team was the defense, which means you had to score points, which is something that J.J. McCarthy has not had to deal with. And in the NFL, you can't rely on your running back to carry the ball 400 fucking times a season and only throw 20 times a game in this day and age, right? This is not 1995. This is not 2000. You don't have the luxury to be eased in, especially with the Vikings, who are looking at themselves like, hey, we're trying to win for the next 10 years, and we hope that we found our guy under center. So you look at that, and you're 100% right. The way the quarterback landscape is right now is that we've been waiting for this changing of the guard, and the only changing of the guard that's really happened is Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And the argument there is that, well, two of the three haven't even sniffed a Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
So I mean, that's the reality. Of
Jalen Hurts in there too, because he did get a bag too.
I mean, yeah, Jalen Hurts. At least Jalen Hurts has gone to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, we look at Jalen Hurts and we're like, that's a lot of offensive scheme, right?
Mm-hmm.
We look at that's scheme, right? So and then you think back, not 10 years ago, you had Phillip Rivers, who consistently made AFC Championship games, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Brett Favre was still slinging it, Drew Brees, Eli Manning, who had won 2 Super Bowls. Like
somehow,
Aaron Rodgers had gone to a Super Bowl.
Patriots, I may add.
Twice. Two times.
One of those being undefeated season. But,
Yeah, we won't talk about it. Now I have pain. Gage. Now I have pain. You happy? You happy now? Your New York brethren sticking up for you.
Always happy to see you suffer, Joe.
Bro, so messed up. But that's what it used to be. We had this line of solid tier 1 quarterbacks, right?
The thing is too, those high tier quarterbacks would take pay cuts to build around them and have better offensive talent because they wanted to win.
Right.
And people are like, oh, they got to get their money, right? They got to get their money. Here's the thing. Tom Brady's made more money off the field than he has on.
Absolutely.
Right? Jordan in the NBA, everyone's like, look what Jordan did. Oh, well, Jordan made fuck tons more money off the court than on it. And that's kind of where we always talk about this thing, like, oh, these guys need to get paid. They need to get their money. And the mainstream media blows it out of proportion. Like, that's their only source of income. Gronkowski's been partying off of his sponsorships and still hasn't, I think of, as of 5 years ago, hadn't spent a game check.
Nope.
Yep.
Neither has Marshawn Lynch.
Right?
Right.
It's all off sponsorship. So these guys don't need to get paid fuck tons of money playing. Because guess what?
NFL,
you win championships, you win playoff games, you get sponsored. And you get paid fuck tons of money to be sponsored. Tom Brady just retired and signed the most lucrative contract of his life for 3 years to go air at Fox.
I can't wait. Have y'all catch some of his segments thus far?
I'm
excited, man.
Let alone.
Hey, yeah.
But
man.
We're gonna go ahead and shift gears here to another bum ass quarterback, as Gage already pointed out. We're gonna talk about how Kirk Cousins, coming off an Achilles tear, got $180 million.
Oh boy.
Over 4 years. Then the Falcons draft Michael Penix Jr. at 8 for no fucking reason, after signing said Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal over 4 years. And by the way, Michael Penix is I think he is or was the oldest quarterback in this draft.
Yep.
Then they find out that they actually tampered with Kirk Cousins. And let's be fair, Tom Brady got fined more money and suspended more games and all of these things more for being generally aware that there may or may not have been less air in a football than is allowed. And the Falcons were found guilty of actually tampering with Kirk Cousins, and they lost a 5th round draft pick. And the team and the owner combined total monetary fine of $300,000. Once again, I'm pretty sure the Patriots lost a 1st round draft pick that year because of that shit too.
They sure did.
And the Falcons lost a 5th-round draft pick and $300,000. So the NFL has essentially said we have zero standard for what actually is what punishments we hand out. And the only thing I can come up with is the reason this was handed out so lightly is because it's the Atlanta fucking Falcons and their ass. But I'm going to go with you on this one, Chris. Does the punishment fit the crime?
I'm gonna say no. Yeah, it doesn't at all. Quite honestly, I feel like it's kind of a joke. And I'm sure y'all have seen kind of some of the reports where there was like an executive or ex-executives that was like, hey, if this is it for me to tamper and basically lock down the person that I want early, if all I'm gonna have to worry about is a 5th-round draft pick and maybe $200,000-$300,000, that's not gonna dissuade anybody from making that type of decision. So I think it's insane, and I absolutely agree. If this had been, let's just get off, not even talking about the Patriots, since we're both Patriots fans, talk about the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Rams, Dallas. Had it been a team of some sort of significance, I feel like it's different. And then they're throwing out there, they added Darnell Mooney and it was a Charlie Warner, right? I feel like that was just to make it seem like they weren't investigating just the Kirk Cousins things. They did it for Kirk Cousins. It has nothing to do with Darnell Mooney. Nobody was knocking down his door during free agency. They didn't do it for a blocking tight end. That's not enough to get the NFL's attention. What got their attention is Kirk Cousins, and that's because he's a big name. That's the only thing that drew their attention. Same thing with Philadelphia and Saquon Barkley. It was a big name. It was a big move. It was a big payment. So, of course, naturally, they want to see if there's something that they can get off of it. But as far as the crime, like if you're found guilty, there should be a standard set across the board. I don't care if you're the worst team in the NFL, if you're the best team in the NFL. If this is a rule that you violate, this is the standard protocol, period. If you're found guilty, there shouldn't be, let's base it off of a certain team. And you're absolutely right. If it was the Patriots, then yeah, they would have burned down that damn organization. You wouldn't have heard the end of it. We would still be talking about it right now to this very day. Oh, they cheated. Oh, they did this. Oh, they did that. They would have probably docked them three 1st-round picks for the next 3 years. Who knows? But yeah, I absolutely don't feel like whatever they gave them, as far as if you want to call it a penalty or whatever, I don't feel like it fits it at all. And I definitely think the only reason that they didn't really give them anything of significance is because it's the Atlanta Falcons. They're not drawing that much attention in the NFL right now. So I don't really think they're that concerned about it. I feel like they feel like we have to do something, so we'll give you something. We'll give you a slap on the wrist and don't do it again and move on.
Come on. Yeah, it makes, yeah, exactly. And the craziest thing is, right, so I'm gonna read something else off here. If you had to guess who was punished more, the Kansas City Chiefs in 2016 with Jeremy Maclin, for tampering with Jeremy Maclin, or the Atlanta Falcons for tampering with Kirk Cousins. Jeremy Maclin cost the Kansas City Chiefs $350,000 and 2 draft picks. Jeremy Maclin resulted in the Kansas City Chiefs being punished more harshly than the Atlanta Falcons were punished for Kirk Cousins. All right?
That's ridiculous.
Like, that here, let's see here. Jonathan Gannon, Arizona Cardinals, is defensive coordinator, all that stuff, like, right? And then that's what the Kansas City Chiefs were found tampered, with the Eagles players here, Jeremy Maclin. Let's see, what else we got here? Dolphins were docked a 1st-round draft pick in 2023 and a 4th-round draft pick in 2024. Owner Stephen Ross was suspended and fined $1.5 million, while Dolphins executive Bruce Beal was fined $500,000 and banned from league meetings in 2022. And that's when they tried to lure Tom Brady. Yeah, and then the New Orleans Saints head coach. So $1.5 million, $2 million in total fines and 2 draft picks, 1 a 1st-rounder.
And you know what this does, right? This sets a precedence now. Because if you're a bad team, you're looking at this and saying, like, if this is all I'm going to be charged, fuck it. I'm going to go after who I want to go after.
Absolutely.
So the tampering period, the tampering rules, as long as the final word comes from the commissioner and there's no set ruling or set punishments for it, the bad teams are going to be like, screw it, I'm going to do this because it's worth the risk. The good teams are going to be like, nah, because knowing you, we're going to get the brunt of the punishment. That's going to be our first round picks.
And you also look at it from a perspective of player, right? Like the Chiefs got punished for a player of Jeremy Maclin's caliber. Nothing against Jeremy Maclin. Sorry, bud, you're not. You never were, nor will you ever be a top 10 wide receiver. It's just not, right? But if you're a team that's decent or good or on the come up, and you have talent, and you target a high profile player, ooh, bad juju, not allowed. Not allowed. But if you're a shit team, and don't forget, Kirk Cousins, by the numbers, is a top 10 quarterback in the league and has been consistently for like 7 years straight. So you can, basically what we've decided is as long as the quarterback, we're going to target a quarterback as a bad team in free agency, just make sure that he's either A, coming off an injury, or B, on the back end of the top 10. And you're shit. Like you're not that great of a team.
But also just make sure that the person that you're tampering for does not go on an interview and basically admit to the tampering.
Also true.
This is how this whole thing started. Because Kirk Cousins basically admitted that he spoke with Falcons ownership and executives before the tampering period started, the legal tampering period.
He never heard stitches get stitches. Jeez.
I mean, I'm surprised. Atlanta's cutthroat about that shit. ATL don't fuck around when it comes.
Right? No, they do not. Do not.
But I mean, Gage, what do you think here, man? I mean, it's clearly it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, y'all kind of fleshed it out, as well as 3 people that weren't in the meetings or part of the organization could probably flesh it out. It's getting to the point where you just have a set standard. If you get found guilty of tampering, no matter who, what, when, or where, you lose X. And usually X should be you lose your first round pick. And you get fined X. Or you can make it you get fined the contract of the player you just signed.
Ooh.
Bro, could you?
Oh, that's nasty.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
That would be insane. The NFL needs to do that. Because clearly, like you said, if you're just going to, like, there's some players, right? Like, if you had traded for a guy of, like, Tom Brady in Miami situation, and you had gotten Tom Brady, right? Giving up a first in 1 year and I think like a fourth in the next year and like $1.5 million. Bet Miami's got a fucking Super Bowl right now, I'll tell you that.
Probably.
Like easy. Okay? Like that's a deal I'm willing to make. Right? I think the unknown stops some teams from doing it, but it's clear that like some of them are like, what are they going to do? We've already seen the top end. What is the bottom end? Can't be. The bottom's got to be way lower than that. I mean, the Dolphins and Tom Brady, the Atlanta Falcons looked at the Dolphins and Tom Brady and all of that, and said, we can live with that for Kirk Cousins. That's what it was. They looked at that number, what it was, the draft picks that they lost, everything like that, and go, you know what? I think we can live with that. We can live with that number.
And now you're saying the president's like, oh, you want a starting quarterback? 5th round pick. If things go wrong.
Yeah. Why not? Why the fuck not?
Well, worth
it. Speaking of starting quarterbacks and things going wrong, Aaron Rodgers has played about 45 seconds total as a New York Jet. And yet, he is coming off of a major injury where he saw his Achilles ruptured in that first 45 seconds. And now, as you know, he's rehabbing, coming back, and he's done all this witch doctor shit to get healthy again and everything like that. He has decided that mandatory minicamp doesn't apply to him, which he probably would have got away from it anyway. I know. But the fact that he essentially, from all reports, just went up to Jets coaches and said, hey, man, I got a trip planned. Not going to be here. And left while they're paying you all this money and you haven't played more than like 5 fucking snaps. You're just going to bail on mandatory minicamp, where you have a brand new rookie wide receiver in Malachi Corley you're trying to get rapport with. You haven't really played a snap of meaningful football with any of these guys. And the expectations in New York are exponentially high, because you now see a Bills team without Stephon Diggs, and a lot of their defensive core is aged out, a Patriots team that is still rebuilding, and a Dolphins team that shows that they can't win on the road or in December or January. And yet, Aaron Rodgers, nowhere to be found. In another hobbit hole, or doing ayahuasca, or whatever it is that this fucking guy has done to make the deal to come back from this Achilles injury and healthy, he's back doing it. And you know what? Sure. If that's what you want to do, man, go for it. But as a Jets fan, I'm going to kick it to Gage. Where is your concern level? And is your concern level like really low because you just can't accept the fact that like this could possibly be very, very bad? Or is it really low because you're just not worried about it?
It's really low because I can't get hurt any worse from the Jets. You kind of used to it at this point. You're just numb to it. Like, oh, the Jets are a shit show. Oh yeah, okay, that seems about right. Between Hassan Reddick, who you just traded for, not talking to your head coach since he got traded to the team, that's normal. At least we know why. He just wants money in a contract. Cool. Aaron Rodgers is just a little out there. We knew that.
Pinky out eccentric.
He's on the way wrong side of football age at 41 when the season starts. He's coming off an Achilles injury and is sacrificing animals, humans, or whatever to play one more year of healthy football. I think that's what his retreat was. My only gripe is don't be like, oh, I'm going to be a leader to this team. Yes, cool, you made OTAs. Cool, thanks for that. But don't come out and say, oh, I'm going to be a leader in this team. I'm going to lead this team to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And then be like, actually, I got something that's more important than football. So I'll see y'all later. I got something to do. And football is not your number one priority. Retire, my dude. Like, it's very simple. You get a lot of months off, and you've had a lot of months off. It's time to lock in or just hang them up. Like, wouldn't be mad either way. Just would suffer mediocrity again. But it is what it is. Like, still the best option for the Jets. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. And he's probably going to play about total of maybe a half a game this year before he gets hurt again.
I mean, the funny thing is, you pointed out, he makes OTAs, which are not mandatory. Not mandatory. This guy makes millions of dollars. You tell me you can't shift a fucking trip, bud? Be on your trip during OTAs and then be there for the mandatory minicamp? Like, literally, the word mandatory is like, there's no wiggle room in that. You know? Like, as a military veteran, if I had a deployment and I went to my commanding officer and was like, hey, I got a trip.
Oh, you talking about the old Matthew Tudor?
Oh, yeah, the old Matthew Tudor. But yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they would tell you to get fucked. Like, you pack your bags, motherfucker. You've already packed for a trip. Good, we're going on one. Hop on the plane, bro. We're going.
Oh yeah, like, we're going on a trip already.
He's ain't going where you think you're going. Like, and it's an entitlement. He's entitled, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, right? And the Jets, this is not the first time you've run this little trick, this little idea. It just took you like fucking 16 years to do it twice. You had another Green Bay Packers quarterback that was a little fucking out there. And has been a little fucking out there. His name was Brett Favre. Between sending his pictures of his genitalia to reporters and not playing worth a fuck in a Jets uniform, he didn't do anything for you. And you said, you know what? It can't happen twice.
That 9-1 Jets team was the greatest collapse I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah, it was. Oh yeah, it was.
I mean, the Social Security checks are now the biggest collapse that he's going through.
Oh yeah. Yeah, shots fired at Brett Favre, but then you decide to run it back. Because, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, probably should sell this fucking organization because we can't keep making these mistakes. But Chris, I'll kick it to you. Like, this is the difference between winners,
Yes.
and people who want to get paid, right?
Winners in the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's a difference between priorities, to be honest. I definitely believe he is very fucking entitled, even though, like, I know he's won MVP a couple times and he's a fairly good quarterback. In his day he was. I get that. But I just have the biggest issue with, again, what has he done? Like, I'm sorry, but everybody is on his jock so hard. And I'm like, he's won, one fucking Super Bowl?
Yeah.
That's it. And that was, 10 years ago?
Eli Manning has more rings than him.
Right. So I'm like, why is everyone, excuse my language, but why is everybody sucking his nuts? I don't get it. I understand. He has a good arm. But I also think he had Devontae Adams, who was at his peak at that point. You had Aaron Jones. So it wasn't just him. He wasn't a one-man show.
I would say
right. You had the guy he brought over, Randall Cobb, who's way past his prime that he somehow convinced him to bring over to the Jets. So I'm like, I don't understand the aura around him or where this hypocrisy comes from him. But I think the hierarchy, not hypocrisy, sorry about that. My issue, I think a lot of people that have pointed out the issue is they showed a clip, which I'm sure you've seen, Gage. I know you've probably seen it. Back in, I believe, in January, right? It's towards the end of the season. And he made this point of saying, hey, everybody has to be locked in. There can't be any distractions. This has to be our goal. Our goal has to be just to be a team and get to the Super Bowl. And just that's our main goal. Nothing else outside of that can matter. And then several months later, you're like, something can matter. Maybe I want to run for an office. Maybe I want to go on a retreat. I'll see you guys later. I'm not worried about it. Don't worry about me, even though I really, like you said, haven't played that many snaps with y'all, but don't worry about me. Worry about you. He seems like that type of guy. Don't question me. I've been in the league forever. My name is known. Figure yourself out. I'll be there when I'm there. So, I personally am not a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers, and this is a prime reason as to why. Decent quarterback, I feel like, probably top 10 when he's on the field, but I just feel like his off-field antics and the way he goes about his business is off-putting.
Oh, 100%. Everything he said is 100% true. He has had probably some of the best consistent talent at wide receiver we have seen a quarterback have. The only one I can actually say probably who had just as much consistent wide receiver play in order is probably Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and the list kind of stops right there. I mean, realistically, those two guys had consistent studs rolling through the wide receiver corps. But I mean, just to list off some names that Aaron Rodgers has thrown to, this is just as a Packer: Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, James Jones, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and then you have Ty Montgomery. And that's just the name. And Ty Montgomery's got the least amount of yards, but he had one of the highest yards per, let's see where it's at, yards per reception, receiving yards per game. So that's what we're talking about here, right? Those are the guys he's thrown to. A lot of those guys, those are household names at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, they're definitely
not just for Packers fans. Everyone who's watched football, especially in the early 2000s, knows who Donald Driver is. You know who Jordy Nelson is. You know who Greg Jennings is.
I'll just say we've all seen the Greg Jennings video.
All seen everyone knows who Randall Cobb is. We if you don't know who Devontae Adams is, stop watching fucking football. Right? Stop watching football. I mean, so that's 5 guys who have gone there with him consistently in his career who are household names. Household names.
That he did not create, I think is also worth pointing out, because some people will say, oh, well, look at Brady. He brought the best out of subpar wide receivers. Not the same. But
no,
those
Devontae
guys
Adams
are just
is balled out everywhere he's went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still quarterback play in Oakland. Or, my bad, Vegas.
Beyond subpar.
So I'm going to kick it to you on here, Justin. And does he deserve the hype he gets? Because obviously, some of the things he does are outlandish, but you think of his no-look throws and things like that, and how he throws on the run, his sidearm and everything. Matthew Stafford has done that for decades. The only difference is, or I say decades, it feels like decades. It feels like the guy's been around since 1995. But, the only difference is that Matthew Stafford...
It has.
Has it been 20 years? Holy shit.
Matt Stafford was 05. All right.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
We got to check.
Because I think this would be his 20th season in the league.
Let's see. He came in.
Let's see.
2009.
Ooh. Sorry, Matt Stafford. I fucking aged you.
We got a couple years.
But Matt Stafford, the only difference between Matt
He's
Stafford
still been
and
for
Rodgers,
15 years is a while.
Yeah, but the only difference between Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers is Matt Stafford played for the fucking Detroit Lions and they were ass.
There you go, because I was going to answer the question.
And the Green Bay Packers were consistent playoff performers. Like, he inherited a very good playoff team from Brett Favre. And then
as
won a Super Bowl like this.
Quarterbacks apparently do for 5 fucking generations.
Right? Right? And now Jordan Love just did the same fucking thing. It's wild. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how the Packers do it.
They sit him. That's why. They sit him.
I'm telling you, well, one, they sit him like for years to learn, which is something that NFL teams just forgot is an option. And number two, I told Chris this a few times, they got somebody in the basement of Lambeau Field that just knows how to pick quarterbacks.
He's got a fucking crystal ball, some wizard down there. Yeah, I don't know. But I want to kick this to you, Justin. Like, if you were the Jets organization seeing this, like, and you're looking at it like from the trainers and the assistant coaches and the players and the ownership and the GM, and you're looking at this, right? And you're seeing these telltale signs of narcissism. Like, what are you thinking right now? What are you like? You can't like you like Jay said, you're stuck. But like, someone's got to take note. This is not the first time you've had turmoil and things like that in the locker room at the quarterback position. I mean, Geno Smith punched some people and like he swung on people in the locker room. You've had consistent issues, and a lot of people want to blame the New York media for being so hard on these guys. But like, Aaron Rodgers is a vet. He was supposed to be able to handle this. And yet he is putting himself in the New York limelight in all of the wrong ways on almost a Zach Wilson, borderline Sam Darnold type of way.
Look, I'll give it to you from the bottom of the chain in the New York Jets organization all the way to Woody Johnson at the top. If you're a player, coach, trainer, this is one of those things that will divide a locker room. Because you're looking at this and it's like, what the hell is he doing that we're trying to win and he's not even here? This is supposed to be our quarterback. This is the person that you paid all this money to. That's the kind of stuff that will divide a locker room, because there's going to be some people that are in favor of the way Aaron Rodgers is going because they probably have similar personality types. And then there's the people who want to win, and they're looking at this like, what kind of horse shit is this? Coaching? Robert Saleh specifically is feeling the heat because this is the kind of thing that will cost you your job. Because if you can't hold this together with the couple of seasons you've already had where you've completely underwhelmed expectation, this is the type of stuff where, you're cut after this season. You're fired. Like, you're not coming back. Start brushing up your resume for other defensive coordinator jobs, because we know you're going to get that. But as a head coach on the New York Jets, you're not doing it. And that's on the coaching side. Ownership is the one that is saying that. Because Woody Johnson, if you haven't noticed over the last couple years, he's tired of losing. He's tired of the way that the Jets have become embarrassed over the last couple of years, over the last couple of decades, with their quarterback specifically. And he basically put it out there last season. We need to win. And unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Unless Aaron Rodgers really comes into the season and he's been trolling all of us a la Ryan Garcia and just puts up numbers, which I doubt is going to happen. But I'm going to give you one more level up. You know who is looking at this and laughing? The Green Bay Packers. and they are out there
Easily.
with a glass of wine, and they are cheersing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because you know what both teams have in common? They can tell the signs of when a player is about to become a problem and know when it's time to ship them off. With the Steelers, it's with the wide receiver group, and with the Packers, it's with the quarterbacks. If you notice with the Packers, they're kind of like that relationship you see between two people. When they break up, one of them initially looks like they're up, but becomes miserable with time. And the other one's miserable for a short period of time, but is better off in the long run. Yeah, that's the Green Bay Packers right now.
I like it.
You haven't noticed, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers in this limelight. Like, he's about to lose it all, even though he may have the chance to become the next vice president of the United States. With the way this country's going, it's a possibility. Bro. But here's the Green Bay Packers, who once again found the franchise quarterback and is now on their way to compete for a division title once again and chance to make deep playoff runs. Who made it out better? Green Bay. And it's because they know when it is time for a quarterback to go before it becomes a major nuisance. And to the New York Jets, coming from a New York Giants fan that has to deal with their fair share of issues involving quarterbacks over the last 5 years, I feel you completely, but it is time for a backup plan, because Aaron Rodgers is not it, and you better start looking for a new head coach, because you know Robert Saleh is not going to be here.
And it's crazy to think, too, because I don't think Robert Saleh has gotten a fair shake. He's consistently put out a good defense. But honestly, you look at the offensive talent underneath center, that's not his responsibility. They have a GM. They have consistently given him poor.
No, they're consistently giving him Zach Wilson.
Poor.
No, there's poor, and then there's Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
I mean, and honestly, like, my thing is, right, if Aaron Rodgers is going to do this shit, you know, and he's going to cause problems in the locker room, I personally would be okay with Tyrod Taylor playing, and you just hope Jordan Travis and actually, they actually got a guy I really like. I didn't realize they got Andrew Peasley out of Wyoming. I watched some tape on him. I liked him. Not anymore. He's a Jet, but I'm just playing. I like Malachi Corley still. But they have options underneath him. Young guys, Andrew Peasley, you know, he was PFF had him ranked pretty highly on quarterback grade for this draft class, you know, and based on how they rate quarterbacks. Jordan Travis was that guy was a Heisman Trophy candidate until he broke his leg. So you have talent underneath him. You have young talent, winning talent, you know, like just dogs, you know, gritty guys. Andrew Peasley is a gritty guy. He played for Wyoming. Jordan Travis, outside of a bad leg injury, wasn't bad. And you have a responsible, ethical veteran in Tyrod Taylor,
Yes.
to lead them. I don't know if it is a good idea to cut Aaron Rodgers, but if you're looking at this from an organizational standpoint, and Jets fans would riot, but at the same time, like, if this guy's just going to treat this as like a part-time vocation instead of a full-time job, right? Like, you had all off-season, bro. When you were rehabbing and doing all your surgery stuff, you could have went on all the trips, done all the shit. This is focus time. This is where champions are made. They're not made in December and February like everyone thinks they are. This is where the foundation's set.
Yep.
And you're just fucking off somewhere, you know, with your hand halfway down your pants eating Cheetos or some shit.
In a dark room
with no light, contemplating your thoughts, which I wouldn't want to be in a room alone with my thoughts, let alone his fucking thoughts.
No.
Why the rest of your team's sitting there having to read all these headlines, because you know New York media is eating this up. Fucking savages up there, man. They don't fuck around. They will burn their own. They eat their young, okay? Like, that's the kind of media you have in New York. They will eat their own, man, like 100%. And you're just gonna feed, like, you're spoon feeding them headlines. Yeah. This is if Aaron Rodgers comes out and they lose, say their first 2 games, 3 games, right? They lose, against San Fran. They got San Fran, then they're in Nashville at Tennessee, and then they go to New England on Thursday night. They have they Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night. So they have short turnarounds, bop, bop, bop.
Yep.
Right? So they have Monday Night Football in San Francisco. Then they're away in Tennessee. And then they flip it again and have a Thursday night game in New England.
Oh, so they're on 3 back-to-back.
Or they have New England and New York. I apologize. They have New England and New York. So, but then this is a very favorable schedule after that, except for the fact that who they face. They host Denver, host the Vikings, host Buffalo, away at Pittsburgh, away at New England, home for Houston, at Arizona, home for Indianapolis, and their bye week is week 12. And then
they're actually at Minnesota.
Is that what? There is an asterisk. You're correct. Then they come out of their bye week, host Seattle, away at Miami, away at Jacksonville, host the Rams, away at Buffalo, host Miami. Their post-bye week schedule is fucking grueling. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't up to par and ready to go, he's sure as fuck not beating 49ers in San Fran. Not happening. Tennessee's got a kick-ass wide receiver core. People don't realize just how good that wide receiver core is going to be, and Will Levis is entering his 2nd year.
Ew.
They might not win that game. Then they go to
Wall concert's going to be in town. Then Will Levis is definitely winning.
And then you go Thursday night. You have New England at home, your first home game, right? If you're going to your first home game, 0-2, and New England comes in, and they could easily be 0-2, and you get fucked up on national television by your division rival who is in a rebuild year, they will come for fucking Aaron Rodgers' life. And it'll all point back to this moment. And at that point, I don't, like you said, Saleh's out. This might be a complete changing of the guard midseason.
Yeah,
could do.
No,
Yep.
no. Woody Johnson does not do that. Look at the Adam Gase fucking shit show.
Which might make him do it. He should have done that. Adam Gase should have been out there like 4 fucking years before he was. If he only coached for 3 years, that tells you how much Adam Gase should not have been a head coach. But I mean, yeah, it
sucks because I really do think Robert Saleh is a very good defensive coach. I think he would somewhere just not the fucking New York Jets. He'd be a great head coach.
100%.
Because he's gotten pegged with shitty quarterback play, a media circus, and a quarterback that everyone put everything on, had no backup plan, who got hurt 45 seconds into a game. And he's going to get fired for it.
Yep.
Even though he has done everything a head coach physically can do, managing a shit show.
100%.
Someone's got to be the scapegoat, and it's not going to be Joe Douglas. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers.
No, I'm going to be sure that Joe Douglas will be out at the end of this season too.
I think Joe Douglas has done a great job as GM. I really do.
There are a few caveats to that statement.
You can do a great job, but if the wins aren't there, ownership is going to be like, you're out.
I think GMs get a longer leash with that. I think coaches go way before GMs.
Good point.
And, like, technically the Jets got Aaron Rodgers for a 2nd-round pick. I can live with that. But I said it earlier last year, if we're going to trade 1st-round picks for any quarterback, should have been fucking Lamar Jackson, but I digress.
Still insane that they said nobody wanted him. I think that's craziness.
I literally said...
And then the next year, he's the MVP of the league.
You looked at all of... And I did this on a show. I said, you look at... I thought the Jets would 100% trade for Lamar Jackson. They would offer the deal, give up the 1st-round pick, and just go. And the funny thing was that he wins an MVP. Aaron Rodgers hurt 45 seconds in the league. Lamar Jackson's younger, right? Which means he could have built a team around him. Still very young.
And
Two-time
Lamar's
MVP.
deal is actually not that outrageous.
It's
at
not.
all.
It would have been a great deal. And yet then you looked at the media circus and everything that was going on and going wrong with the Aaron Rodgers acquisition, right? The Green Bay Packers, is he retiring? Is he not retiring? All this wishy-washy. But you knew at that moment that this could be a problem. And yet, here we are, going on the second year of this debacle. And all we found out is we were right. You knew. And you had an out. You had a capability. You looked at it, right? You looked at the landscape. You said, we could have a former MVP who's just had a little trouble getting over the hump, or we can get a former MVP who's won a Super Bowl but hasn't been back in a decade.
Who's also 40 years old.
Who's also 40 years old. And you chose the guy. You chose wrong. Because Lamar Jackson's won 2 MVPs with questionable wide receiver talent. Realistically, the best receiving weapon that Lamar Jackson's had ever is a tight end. It's Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Hands down.
And you have good young core athletes and okay tight ends. Who Lamar Jackson showed it doesn't matter who's lining up the tight ends. He made Isaiah Lively look great. And you chose the wrong one. And you know what the fucked up thing is, as a Patriots fan, I was on my soapbox for the New York Jets to go get Lamar Jackson. I picked them. I said, they're fucking doing it. And the funny thing is that this Gage was on this show with me. He was on this show with me when I said it, and he goes, love it. Won't happen. Love it. I would lose my mind. He would have had a Lamar Jackson jersey the same day. He would have overnighted that motherfucker for the extra $45. He would have built it himself same day. But it won't happen. And I asked him why. Why won't it happen? Tell me why. He goes, there's no logical reason why it won't, other than it's the goddamn Jets. And never have more simple yet accurate words ever been uttered for how an organization operates in the acquisition of players before in my life. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and end this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Gridiron. We love these off-season episodes because we get to talk about the what-ifs and the have-nots. And obviously, Gage likes to see me in pain. But if you see the redness in his face, that's just... That is a man who's about to go pop a beer, get in the shower with his clothes on, and just sit down and contemplate his fandom. That's the face you're seeing right there. All right? Be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms, including all of our other House Call offering channels. You can find them on the YouTube channel of The Gridiron below of all their House Call offerings. That's where all of our other segments are. Be sure to check out our webpage as well, where all of our blogs are at. You can also check out all of our affiliates at our link me. But until next time, this has been The Gridiron. Peace.